Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our Tableau migration to cloud using Storm webinar. My name is Michelle Hauser, and I am the Community and Events Manager for UserReady. Before I introduce you to our panel today, allow me just a moment to share a few housekeeping items. If at any time you experience a technical issue, please send a chat message to UserReady webinar, and I will do my best to assist. We encourage you to share questions that you may have with our panelists today using the Q&A feature, and we'll do our best to answer any submitted questions during the program. Should we be unable to answer your question due to time constraints, we'll reach out at the conclusion of the program. We are pleased to be joined by guest panelist Scott Smith, a product manager for Tableau Cloud. He works with enterprise to create a more agile, data-driven cultures by leaning on the trust, reliability, and scalability of Tableau's SaaS offering. Panelist Anirban Ghosh is a product manager at UserReady with a deep expertise in providing enterprise-wide business intelligence products, solutions, and services. He works with end customers, engineers, designers, and sales and marketing teams to innovate, develop, and shape 0 to 1 product experiences. Last but certainly not least, allow me to introduce you to Andy Vadul. Andy is the CTO and solution principal at UserReady. He is both Tableau desktop and server certified and has been working with Tableau since Tableau version 7. His special interest is APIs and application integration. Turning it over to you, Andy. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Scott, really honored to have you on board. So we'd like to start this discussion to understand why Tableau Cloud? What's the advantage for organizations to actually move to the cloud, especially the Tableau Cloud?
Yeah, thanks, Andy, and thanks to UserReady team for bringing me on. It's an honor to be here. Really, we've seen this happening for a number of years now, but what I'm really hearing from customers, especially recently, is that they feel we're at a pretty unique time in history. We've got this rapid pace of innovation. We're in the midst of a murky economics environment, and many customers feel that if they're not the ones that are disrupting, they might be the ones who are being disrupted. So to stay ahead of their competition, companies are looking for opportunities to be agile, to be closer than ever to their customers and their needs, to pick up on market changes as they're happening, even to respond real time to how customers are engaging with their products. Because who knows what new pivot is ahead of us tomorrow with everything that's been going on. So to differentiate themselves, customers are looking to digital transformations to help them build those long-term competitive advantages. They're tired of being on outdated software, tired of requiring 6 to 12 month strategic planning just to estimate the amount of hardware they might need for the new analytics use cases. And really, they're tired of worrying about performance and things that inhibit their own employee innovation. So last year we saw over 600,000 users make this migration, and we're expecting to more than double that again this year for all the reasons that you see here on the screen as well. So that's why we're really excited by offerings like Storm to help customers along in this journey.
So let's say I am a customer and I have Tableau server, and we have decided as an organization to move to the cloud. What do you see are the biggest challenges that your customers are coming over to the cloud face? Because you would be seeing them coming in and asking those questions.
Yeah, there's kind of 3 main things. The first is more of an internal thing to the company, that oftentimes enterprises require some driver internally who's willing to spend time and effort aligning people on a mission. F5 recently went through a migration, and they actually had their RVP of enterprise data strategy and insights really drive this internally and helped, not only align leadership across the organization, but to drive that mission of data transformation. And they're able to see reduced total cost of ownership and better agility, but it took someone internally to drive that. And the other 2 are more on the product side. The first is just education. There's some nuances between the 2 products, and it's just hard to plan scaled solutions around nuances. It really is like a predictability layer, which is kind of the third thing.
If there was a crystal ball in front of you, Scott, after seeing that customer with the RVP of engineering actually pushing all of this, what could have been done to actually make their migration easier? What could you have done?
Yeah, what I tell every customer I talk about this with is partner with someone who has gone before you in this area, who's versed in this, who understands the nuances, who understands the unknown unknowns, as I like to call them, the things you don't think to plan for, because there are a number of those that still exist today. And so if you partner with someone who's gone through it before, they can help guide executives through proper advocacy. They can help properly scope to align expectations, which has been really important for some of our enterprises. And then really confidence in the midst of all the things that are going on, because there's some complexity and often multiple systems are being migrated at the same time, and how they integrate just requires someone who's gone through that process before.
Thank you for sharing that, Scott, because we as UserReady have had the opportunity to actually help a whole set of customers going through this migration process. It initially, started off with us trying to do the whole thing manually. And then we realized after doing the second or the third customer, if you can move over to the next screen, one, we actually started thinking, hey, migration is probably the thing that would help our customers the most. And we've moved Tableau Server over to Tableau Cloud, along with other things behind the scenes. It's not just the Tableau visualizations. So we look at the data stack as well, because while Tableau dashboards are moving to the cloud, we realize there is an opportunity for actually customers to make it easier. And most of the time, we've already seen them doing it, but moving the data as well. So this is where we are looking at what we call as managed migration services. And today we want to show the team and the people on the webinar one thing that distinguishes us from the rest of the groups that are actually helping migration. So when you go to any migration at a high level, we've captured that in the next slide. It's not just the content, not just the dashboards. It's the data behind it, as we just talked about. The data sources, whether they're direct live connections or extracts from the Tableau side, and users who are using that data, users, groups, permissions, who gets to see what. The security aspect is very important. Along with that, who gets all of these subscriptions, whether they're getting a dashboard delivered to them like Monday morning before they actually walk into that important meeting, so that they have their data at their fingertips. All of these things are what we typically see in a migration. And because we've done it so many times, we started putting that together into what we call as an accelerator. And that accelerator is what we call a Storm. So when you talk to the Tableau team and we get into the midst of the conversation, the first thing we try to do is try to see if we could be predictable to say how big this migration is going to be. So in the next slide, the first thing that we do is plan. This planning is semi-automated. We give you guys a dashboard. We take a look at what is on your environment, one or more of the servers, making sure we understand what that piece is. This is semi-automated where you work with you. Once we plan and we prep the environment for migration to make sure all the pieces are aligned, and we're going to show you a demo of what we typically do, setting up a Tableau bridge so that you could talk to on-prem data sources, or making sure all your data sources can be validated once they move to the cloud. The automated piece is the migrate piece. This we are going to show you a demo in the next couple of minutes. And once that migration is done, it's smooth, we are going to switch over to a semi-automated validation piece where, as you talked about, Scott, we are going to get some people from the customer team involved, some of our people involved to make sure the data sources are right, the dashboards look exactly the same. And if there is any PII data that we can't touch, it'll be up to the organization to actually identify a team that can run through this. Essentially 3 steps: plan, semi-automated, where we give a dashboard and actually get exactly what is inside your environment that needs to migrate. Automate, which is the demo that we're going to show in the next couple of minutes. And the last piece is validate after the whole migration is done. So now let's talk about plan. The plan piece is a single dashboard that we give to our customers who are looking to migrate. And the next slide actually shows you a view of all the things that we get as part of the plan. So these are all the migration pieces. So typically when you're doing migration, what we have seen customers also take the opportunity of, let's say, removing a couple of sites. Let's say you have an archival site or some things that you don't really need as far as the migration is concerned. So this workbook, the screenshot of which you're seeing here, is given to you as a customer, pointed to the customer's repository. You just have to point to your Postgres repository. And we pull out all the information that we need. What kind of dashboards do you have? How many visits do we have? Do we have any embedded data sources? Do we have other things that we need to look at? Subscriptions, comments, metrics, all the pieces of information that we need in order to make this predictable. And like you said, Scott, this is the thing that actually drives value for the customer so that we could pretty much tell them, hey, this is what it is going to take to the particular hour. That's the level of accuracy that we've had once you get this view. Once we start the migration, the next screen actually gives a workbook that we deploy on the customer site, which tells them how ready they are, where they are in the product of migration. So essentially asking the question, are we there yet? How far away are we? And as we start migrating and getting dashboards and data sources ready, this view moves from, let's say, 48% all the way to 95%. Typically, that's what we've seen when the migration is complete. So this workbook, along with the initial planning workbook, is what we are going to give to the users and the customers. Then the migration process starts once we do the plan. So I'll hand it now over to Anirban to actually show a demo of how the migration process works, which is the middle piece after the planning. Any questions, feel free to stop us, please. Put them in the chat and we'd be happy to answer them for you.
Thank you, Andy. So until this point, we have understood from the discussion from Andy and Scott on the importance of migration. Now, then Andy spoke about what are the nitty-gritties, what are the best practices that we need to be mindful of when we talk about migration. Then you saw the few accelerators that we have built, which can help you understand what needs to be migrated, what could be the cost and effort estimate, and then how do you measure the progress. Now, all of these accelerators, along with the product that we're going to show here, is going to make your migration to cloud guided, measurable, as well as an option to monitor. So in our discussions with all enterprises who want to make the move to migration or are in the journey towards migration, three keywords were very critical that we took into account when we built Storm. The keywords were guided, monitor, and measure. So with these design principles is how we have designed and developed Storm. So let me take you to the Storm environment and walk you through the elements that we've kept in mind while designing Storm. At the same time, I'm going to do a demo of how the migration exercise will look like with Storm at your disposal. So here is what the Storm UI looks like. On the left-hand side, you will have a set of connections. This will essentially be your server or cloud, servers or cloud environment that you'll be able to connect to. And then once you've added your credentials and necessary attributes to it, you'll be able to establish a connection. So let me connect to a server environment and cloud environment. And if the health of the environment is up and running, everything is good, you'll see it. You'll see a green element highlighted here, which means my elements are good to go. And then at the top section, we have given the source connection elements. So for example, you could connect to a server environment. Then you can select the necessary site. For the purpose of the demo, I'm going to connect to a development site. And then you can select a particular project. So for the purpose of the demo, I'm going to select a project which has a few assets. So I've selected a project called Storm Scenario 1 in my source Tableau server sitting on premise. So this is the server, and the server has a few assets. It has assets of all kinds. Now for the destination, I'm going to select a cloud environment. The name of the project would be demo destination. And here, as you can see, it would be empty. Now, as part of the demo, my goal would be to lift and shift a few assets from my source to my destination cloud environment. Again, here, you can search and do a selection of the destination project. So I'm going to select here. And then as soon as I make the connection, you're able to see that all the assets that were in my source environment has come in. Now, when I say assets, this means not only the dashboard, the data sources, the permissions, the attributes, including comments, metrics, extract refreshes, everything has been pulled in, right? Within a single click as soon as we make the connection. So now once the source and the destination connections have been established, now we will walk you through the guided steps that we have built as part of the tool. So first and foremost, we have the plan tab. As part of the planning exercise, you see the list of assets. Here, you can add a tag to mention that, okay, these are the assets that I want to take it and migrate in the first phase. So you can add the tags from the UI itself, or you can add the tag in the source and the tags will get reflected here. In this case, all these assets have been tagged, calling that they're ready to be migrated. Now I'm going to select the first 5 assets. If I wanted to change the tag, I can make the changes to the tag from here itself, just to showcase that it has passed a certain step. Now, after the tagging exercise, we'll make a selection of the number of assets. Again, for the purpose of the demo, I'm going to select a few assets, but then you can select as many assets as you want. Storm can handle as many dashboards as you want in a single go. Now, once I've made the selection, I'm going to move to the Migrate tab. Now, in the Migrate tab, we have 3 guided steps. First is check. In the checking exercise, we check for rules. Rules like if my asset is able to connect to the data source within a permitted time. Is my asset responding within a definitive timeline? So once I make the selection, I click on check. At this point, my rules are going to check against the assets and ensure they're healthy to be migrated. An analogy of this step that I like to give is just like you're moving to a new apartment. Before you move to a new apartment, you want to check whether your furnitures are good enough. Are they healthy enough? Do they meet the decor of your new apartment? So this is a similar step. Before we even decide about migration or plan to migrate the assets to my destination, we want to check and ensure they're healthy. Next, after the checking is successful, at this point, I see that all my assets have been checked and the status is all success. And here I could see it took around 13 seconds to do the checking exercise. Now, once this checking step is complete, we go to the next step. Here again, I see all my assets. Then I click on continue. It's going to give me the other elements work at the back end of the dashboard. So for example, the data sources. Now, when I move the dashboard, it is important that I move the data sources along with it. So in this step, what we are doing is we are checking if the data sources are healthy enough. Do they meet the necessary criteria for migration? And do a checking exercise again. And then once they are correct, we will map this additional elements to the dashboard before we do the final push to the destination environment. This way, we have given an UI where you can look at each and every element, starting from data sources, groups and users, extract, refresh, metrics, alerts, and subscriptions. Next, similar exercise for groups. At this point, while I click on continue, it shows me all the groups and users associated with the data dashboard that we have nominated for migration and do the mapping exercise. Now, when we did this generic design of the tool, at each and every point, whenever we got feedback from the customer, we kept on making changes. And I'm going to show you 2 small changes that we have done and on the UI itself, right? Wherein it can become an all comprehensive UI to meet with any and every needs that an admin, a site admin could have when he or she is using Storm to do the migration. So for example, in certain scenarios, you might want to move your dashboard to a certain project in the destination, or you might want to move your data source to a certain project. So in case during the journey you decide that you want your dashboard to lie on a certain folder, which we have selected. But then during the discussion or during the process, you think or you realize that you'd want to move the data sources maybe in a project inside the destination project. So in order to do it, we have given an optional capability in the UI where you can select or create a new folder on the go. You don't have to go to your destination environment and make it, right? These changes, you can make it on the go. So that's where we have given this additional capability. Then we got to know from our users there could be a scenario they might want to make some changes to the groups and individual users in terms of their settings, right? Settings related to the workbook or settings related to the data source. So on the UI itself, you can make some changes. Again, this is the element of details that we have been able to bring into Storm per the feedback that we got from our intended end users. So in this case, again, once I did the click to mapping, I could see that all my destination users and my groups have been mapped within 14 seconds. In case there's a duplicate in my destination environment, it would have given me a status update here itself. Moving on, extract refresh. Again, the same exercise where we take a look at all the refreshes and do the mapping. So this way, at each and every step, we are able to see the elements that needs to be migrated in a guided manner. And then at each and every step or the push of a button, I'm able to measure and monitor what I am migrating and how much of the migration is complete. So whether it be metrics, alerts, the same exercise continues. In future, we also are going to give you a capability where you can schedule the migration at your chosen point in time. Now, once this set of steps are complete, right? And once we see that all these elements are ready to be migrated and they're healthy enough, we click on the final button, which is the push. And at this point, we know all our assets and their related attributes have been mapped to the assets and they're all healthy enough. So we'll click on this run now option, and then you'll be able to start migrating all the elements. Again, within a single click, it's looking into all the elements that will start the migration process. We already see that it gives us a status, right? What are the total number of elements? How much part of the migration is complete? How much time has taken? And we start seeing the statuses. Right? Now, this is what we have understood from the market is something that everyone was looking at, right? Where they wanted a guided procedure to migration, where they wanted to measure and monitor. Now, say during the process, something fails, right? You'd obviously like to understand what failed and how it failed, what was the reason. For that, again, we have made it very simple. If anything would have failed during the process, you'll get to see here. And then whenever there's a failure scenario, you provide a link, you click on the link, it directly takes you to the logs tab. In the logs tab is where you'd be able to get to the details of what failed, why failed, and when did it fail. And as an end user, you'll be able to see the reasons, and then you'll be able to write measures to fix the failure scenario. So at this point, we see we are 43% complete with the migration. And then very soon, all our assets should be in the destination. But at this point itself, we can go to the destination. And then we can do a quick refresh and see if our assets are here in the destination. So this is a destination environment. Let me just log in. This is the destination folder. And as I speak, we see that the assets have already started moving in. Now, let's see if we can choose one particular asset. And here I can see that the data sources have made the move along with the dashboard, along with the refreshes, they've all made the move. Now let's go to the dashboard and see if my look and feel is good, if my data looks good. At this point, I'm expecting everything to be there 100%. So as we imagine, everything is in there. So that's what we're envisioning the future of migration could be. Today, as we speak, Storm is live. And if you go to UserDay's website, usery.com. And if you go to products and if you look at Storm, so we have all the details that you need to know about Storm, including all the features, all the functionalities. At the same time, if you scroll below and if you go to the releases section, when you click on it, will open up a tab called Storm Releases, and you'll get to see all the features that we release every quarter. So every quarter we have a release for Storm now, and you'll be able to see all the features, functionalities that we release. And most of the features, functionalities, and the use cases come directly from our Tableau team members, our SEs, our AEs, and our enterprise customers. Another update that I want to share with you is, so we have written a book, right? There were a lot of discussions, a lot of best practices, and a lot of information available, right? On how do I migrate? What do I migrate? Where do I start from? What are the best practices? So in order to share all the information, we usually as an organization work with our team members who do the migration and help our customers migrate day in and day out. And we have come up with an ebook. So if you come to our website and click on this free ebook download, it will take you to the book that we have created and launched last year, beginning of this year, the Migration from Cloud, the Practitioner's Guide. And here you'll have to click on the digital copy. And when you click on this digital copy, it will open up the book. And if you see here, we have written the book from an end user's perspective. So if you go to the different chapters, you will see the different scenarios for migration. How do you migrate using the content migration tool from Tableau? And how do you migrate using Storm? The thing that I like the best about the book is it's written from an end user's perspective. So real life scenarios have been discussed and real life mitigation areas on how do you start from zero to your end goal of migration have been discussed here. So we welcome you to take a look at the book. This is free to download for everyone. And we welcome you to come to our site, take a look at Storm. If you have any questions, Michelle is going to share the information. Meanwhile, we'll start taking questions.
Yeah, we do have a couple of questions that have come in. So can Storm support server to server, server to cloud, and cloud to cloud migration? Or is it just limited only to server to cloud migrations only? Anirban, that's probably a question for you.
Great question. So Storm can support not only your server to server, server to cloud, as well as cloud to cloud. Our goal is to support any to any migration. We are envisioning Storm as a tool that you will not only use for one-time migration from server to cloud, you will also use Storm for your CI/CD needs, which means, say in a scenario, I want to move a set of assets from my dev environment to my UAT environment, or from my UAT to my cloud environment, whether on premise or on the cloud, doesn't matter. We want to make Storm the tool which can be used for any to any migration.
Yep.
So Andy, that's I think what summarizes the question.
Right. So one of my customers, so this is another question. One of my customers evaluating migration to cloud. Customer has approximately 500 plus sites on the same instance of Tableau server. How would Storm handle migrating sites where each site has its own admin, set of data sources, workbooks, dashboards? I gave a high level view that we are looking at sites as one level lower. Would you like to add anything else to this, Anirban?
Yeah, this is something that keeps on coming over and over again. I'm aware that some of our delivery team members, along with Andy, is involved in an engagement wherein the customer had around 1,300 sites. I'm not sure why they've created so many sites, but yes, with Storm, we look at handling the sites at a one level lower, and we have a very guided path of how you'll go about it. But with the process that we have given a very standard definition of how you handle. So make essentially the sites, bring it one level lower and make it another project within the ecosystem. Obviously, we'll follow your guidance of how you want the environment to be, and we have a guided path using the tool of how you can make the transition from your current environment to your future state.
Yeah. Scott, question for you. How have you seen other customers handle this multiple site migration? We obviously have a path, but I'd like to hear from you as well.
Yeah, I was just thinking there's there are a lot of customers who are in this journey, and they're actually one of the things that brings them to the discussion is interest in consolidation. Maybe the beauty of Tableau is its ease of getting started. The end user can jump in and start anything they'd like, and sometimes without proper governance, that can lead to overinflation of assets, things like that. Especially with sites early on, people leaned on those for simple solutions for content and governance. But realistically, the more sites you have in general, there's more administrative burden. So they're actually looking to reduce the number of sites in this process. And what's great about Storm is you can customize what that's going to look like for you. There are still customers who want to have more than one site for a number of reasons. And there's still value in it, but oftentimes you're going from a large number to a handful. And so you can work with the team to understand what's actually the right mix for us based off of the governance strategy we want to put in place as a part of this migration. Because ultimately we want to make this simple to administer and moving to the cloud. That's the whole point in moving to SaaS is I want to think less about administration in the future.
Yep. Thank you, Scott. Couple of detailed questions, Anirban. Can Storm move custom views and metrics associated to dashboards from server to cloud? Interesting one.
Yeah. So I know this is something much requested by the community. The question, again, this is something that has kept up, and a lot of people who are involved in migration would be aware that this is something not handled by CMT today. On how do you handle or migrate custom views and metrics. So I'm happy to share, and this is the first time, again, I'm sharing with everyone, this will come up on our website. So Storm is now capable to handle or migrate custom views and metrics automatically. So you can do it from within the tool itself in the same path that we have shown how we have migrated other assets. We will be launching this feature before the end of this month. On top of it, Andy, again, this is something that I think I am aware that, again, another much needed use case from the community regarding embedded data sources, right? Again, this is a capability that CMT does not handle today. So we have found a way to support migration of embedded data sources as well. There is enough data points, which gives us the confidence, again, that is a feature that we will be able to launch via Storm itself, which means you'll be able to migrate embedded data sources via Storm. That would be a feature that we will launch from within the tool itself in January 2023. And the details will all be published on our website. If you go to our release pages, if you keep an eye on it, we'll be sharing with you the release notes and the details behind how we will be supporting the use case.
One last question, Anirban. I know it's a time check. How do I migrate things like tags, comments, metrics, and other elements like that?
Yeah, this is a great question. I want to take an opportunity to take you back to the UI of Storm. Now, what our vision has been, and as I was showing the demo, in terms of the UI, we want to keep things very, very simple. Like I said, right, we want to make it very, very simple in terms of how we handle all the migrations, keeping the complexities one level down, and the UI should be simplistic. So as you can see here within Map, we have handled until subscriptions. In our launch this month, we'll be supporting a way how you'll handle the migration of comments as well as content owners. They will have the same look and feel, which means there are three keys or three buttons that we want you to handle when we talk about migration. Option one is when you click on continue option, you'll be able to see the UI. So for example, alerts. You click on continue, you'll be able to see the alerts that you have tied to your asset. Then you will choose an option to map to destination. At that point, it will look into the asset, check if the asset is healthy, and will tie the asset to the dashboard. And then you'll finally come to the push option, and then you'll click on run now to finally make the push. So 3 clicks to solve each and every migration use case that you'll have within the realms of moving an asset or a dashboard from source server to destination server. So in short, it will be handled the same way, like we have seen the demonstration today.
One last question, Anirban. how much do you need to involve the end users and things like embedded data sources? I know you talked about embedded data sources briefly, but how much do you need the end users to be involved?
In one step, the step is, you remember Andy spoke about this slide that we shared, right? The navigator document that we shared. This is where we need the help of the end user. At this point, we want to know. So for example, if you see here, for this particular client, we had 3,167 data sources with embedded passwords. So this is the most critical step. And I'm pretty sure Andy could share a couple of examples. Sometimes we go to a client, they want to do a migration and they want to do it probably within a week. For them, they think migration would be very simple. And we realize they don't even know what the assets, the type of assets they have in the environment. So when we show this tool and we come with the data pointers, it helps us point to the right assets and then work with the client in a phased manner and define what that phase could look like for the client's priorities.
Okay.
So this is what typically helps us come to an estimate and work with the client. This is where we need the client's help, where we can come up or draft a plan with them for their priorities. And you could share the example of a client that we know that it's a very critical business and they will come to an halt March 23rd of this year if they do not move all their assets from source to destination. So Andy is involved in this exercise. Andy, I would like you to share that example so that the pointers are clear on how do we go about this exercise.
Yeah, and for this customer, embedded data sources are the biggest, and it's a self-service model. So teams are actually putting their own passwords inside their data sources, publishing their reports and dashboards. The issue here is making sure that the customers are ready. The involvement here is making sure they gather all the passwords, keep it handy so that when the team gets on, you'll be able to put those passwords in a secure location, get the user ready team access to that location. The tool will do the rest. So it's making sure the passwords are aligned. All the embedded data sources will eventually become published data sources for us. And the workbook will connect to the published data sources. The workbook will then be pushed over to the cloud. That's our process for handling embedded data sources in Jest.
Yep. Thank you, Andy.
Wonderful.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Oh, go ahead,
Michelle.
Andy.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I think it's a time check for let you, Michelle.
It is. We would like to thank everybody for joining us today, and special thanks to Scott Smith of Tableau for sharing his insights. We hope that you found this presentation very insightful. We'll be sharing a link to view the recording of today's sessions, but in the meantime, if you have any questions, please feel free to email us at getstorm@userready.com if you have any questions or would like more information. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.